the Zerg. His match against DRG, where he puts the Hydros into a wall, was quite famous, and you see it all the time here in the studio when they play highlight videos. It's a pretty famous match from this season. He's flashy, like you talked about before. He will get into your head. He is the bar none obvious perfect choice, I feel, for the second player. And if I'm Rogue, it's so obvious even that I even prepared for PartinG also a little bit. Like, that's how obvious the pick is.
That's actually a good way to put it, because Rogue, if you're thinking about if he takes that win, PartinG just comes to mind. And, you know, he's been preparing so much for ZVZ, as is evidenced by his great play here. But how good is he going to be in ZVP? PartinG is a guy that just, he will take the game into his hands, and I'm not sure if Rogue can handle it. I mean, Rogue is an awesome player, and he's been looking really good, especially recently.
Yeah.
But can he handle the big guy, PartinG?
PartinG is so scary because he will so oftentimes hit you with the timing. You know, he will also just play a macro game. Let's talk about it a little bit more once we get into the map. The map is Yeonsu for this Protoss versus Zerg. Let's jump into it.
LTA는 SK텔레콤.
Down here in the bottom left on Yeonsu, this is SK Telecom's PartinG.
And to the top right for JINAIR, up 1 in this series, it's Rogue, aka Savage or Climax. And, oh man. So, about PartinG, like, he coined the Immortal All-In, like, as his build because he was doing it better than anybody else, and it's better than Frozen, that sign says. The movie, I just wanted to translate that for you guys. It's true, the Frozen movie was really good, but this is Pro League, so there you have it.
Yeah,
but
actually, take a little stand back. Frozen was an awesome movie if you guys have not seen that. Or if you're not into animated movies, it doesn't matter. You know, I'm not the biggest animated movie guy either, but I went and saw that movie with a couple of my friends. That was a really awesome movie.
Yeah, I seriously would recommend it, even if you don't like Disney movies really, or you think it's too kiddie. Like, I actually really thoroughly enjoyed it. I actually like Disney movies in general, though.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit different maybe than most people, but everybody I've talked to has also liked it. So anyway, going back to PartinG. PartinG is better than Frozen, actually, and he will freeze you in place with force fields and destroy you with Immortals if he wants to hit a timing. He can take a game where he was going to hit a timing, get into your head, and then realize like his timing isn't going to work, and then manipulate the game back into a macro game that's in his favor where he takes a lead. He's actually going to start things off with a Nexus first, Forge in the main. Wow, very greedy, very flashy, very PartinG.
This is what he loves to do. I mean, he plays these games and he holds off crazy timings out of players who, you know, maybe will punish him. Thankfully for him, Rogue is going hatch first as well. But, I mean, he just plays these kinds of games which are just slightly risky, but he just holds it off somehow, and then he, like, goes for timings which he just makes work. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of, you know, how the game is going on, he just seems to make it work in his position regardless of what's happening.
Wow, they're both, like, in total greed mode here. Double hatch before pool, and then back at home, PartinG is skipping the Forge entirely and going into a Gateway. So, you know, if it were an early pool, he might have some very serious problems in defending, but that's not what it's going to be. Even makes an additional drone before he starts the spawning pool, and there goes the gas. So PartinG with no scout, which is something that he's actually shown a lot in the past in this matchup, as he just does not probe scout, you know, early on. Isn't going to know until just now, so there's no way he could have gone over there, identified it, and then, you know, switched into cannons.
Yeah. That on screen just said if SKT wins, he will switch his phone carrier to SK Telecom.
Yeah, that's a bold statement. That's gonna be like about an hour worth of time he's gonna have to spend at the cell phone store. But you know what? Like,
that's not just something you can just say without having to back that one up. That's you know, that's a big statement.
He's like, but if JINAIR wins, I'm gonna take a vacation to Taiwan on JINAIR flight. We'll see how this one goes out, though. I'm really looking forward to seeing how these two builds are going to collide, because they're both so greedy in nature. Obviously, the advantage that Rogue gets is that he gets so much extra larva and so much extra mineral saturation from a fast 3 hatchery economy. But PartinG has this really fast warp gate tech coupled with a really fast economy as well. So he can hit very aggressive gateway attacks to punish this. So now Rogue has to switch back into safety mode a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. If PartinG chose to throw down maybe 4 or 5 extra gateways here and just go for a really quick timing with this warp gate, I mean, he could do a lot of damage. And with those 3 hatcheries up really quick for Rogue, he's going to have to play very safe.
Yeah, and what the 3 hatches also gives you is if you identify a problem like this, you can very quickly respond. Oh, no. Oh, it's the robotics. And it is not scouted. It's in a great location, very hard to scout because of the Overlord locations. And, ooh, I'm hoping we get to see that Soul Train. Thanks for coming down, guys. If you guys do come to the studio, you can, of course, get headsets like these 2 very attractive people have and hear our English commentary.
Yep. Definitely come down and do that, guys. If you're in Korea or not, make a trip, make a plan to come down. We have a great atmosphere in the studio right now. So many people coming down to watch this. And look at this. Rogue sending in his Overlord. Is it going to be enough? The Sentry isn't doing much damage to this Overlord. I think it could get over there.
He turns it to the right, though. There is a second Overlord, don't forget. And he starts microing the Sentry like crazy. The robotics is scouted. The robotics is scouted, and he starts the Immortal. Now, PartinG, like I said before, he can take a build, realize it's not going to work, and morph it into a macro game. He starts a Forge now. I think that's what we may see. He may just take a third base now and continue his upgrades, but he's PartinG. He could do anything.
Yeah, I mean, PartinG is just a guy where you're not exactly sure exactly what he's going to go for. And, I mean, he's showing the Immortal already. There's one. Rogue has moved his Overlord in position to see what exactly is coming out of that, so he's going to know it's Immortals. And he's definitely going to prepare correctly for this.
Yeah. And what PartinG may be able to accomplish is force a lot of units to be made and then just walk home and try to get ahead as a result. Because after this is scouted, it's so hard to make it work. I mean, before he's even started moving across the map, there's 6 roaches in production for Rogue. I mean, he's going to have units out. He has his lair up very quickly as well. And the Warp Prism here now being queued up. I think PartinG is just going to pressure with this a little bit. He's only adding 2 additional gateways, so this is not an end-all, kill-all move. This is just a force units and do damage type of pressure.
Yeah, I mean, with the Forge up a bit later here and the +1 coming out as well, I mean, it doesn't look like he's going to go all in with this one. He is adding a bunch more gateways here.
Yeah, actually,
I mean,
he's adding 5 now, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, his +1 is not going to be ready when the attack starts, but by the time it's finished, it certainly will be. So that's something to consider as well. I don't know, this is just like, it's a broadcasted move that he's done here. And now, part of the reason why he adds the gateways could also potentially be that he knows he's been scouted and his opponent's going to make a ton of units, so he needs to have his own units to defend as well if he wants to take a third base. Yeah, he's adding 2 cannons right now. Where did the Warp Prism go? Okay, he's just going to go harass with that.
Yeah, he followed those 2 Immortals up with a Warp Prism, so he maybe was going to throw that in there with his push to pick up those Immortals when they did get focused, but it seems now that he has been kind of figured out, he's going to be like, okay, well, I do have these units anyway, why not just throw down a bit of harass while I'm waiting here? And it seems like that's what he's going to do, and Overseer's coming in here. He's going to be able to see everything.
Yeah, looks like the harassment over here just going to try to pick off some roaches. Really good reaction by Rogue. The second he saw that there were no Immortals with those sentries with his few speedlings, he was like, oh, okay, I know exactly what you're doing. You're just going to come to my main base. He came over prepared. And you might be wondering, why is he bringing the roaches there? That's what the Immortals want to kill. If he doesn't bring the roaches there, then maybe he gets a few sentries or a few zealots out with warp ends and then can force heal the ramp. So he has to be, you know, he has to have a few of those units with his Immortals, or with his Zerglings.
Yeah.
And he's just going to keep poking here, it looks like. Not going to be able to get a whole lot done with this many Zerglings, though.
Yeah, just picking off whatever he can. I mean, once those shields regenerate, he can take a bit more extra damage without getting into his health. So it seems like, you know, he just wants to continue with that harass there. We see Hydralisk being pumping out here. Only 9 so far.
Yeah, more cannons being added for PartinG because he's really going to commit to the attack now. He's up to 47 probes, and that gives him a little bit of extra economy. He now has 4 Immortals as well. Warp Prism's still alive, don't forget. And this may be something that, I don't know, he's got a mostly Zergling army with. I mean, 90 Zerglings against this many force fields? He even cuts off the flank. There's no way for him to flank right now. He's just going to work his way towards this. This is a great way to really get into the mind of Rogue right now.
I mean, this is such a strong push right now. He does have Hydras, but is it enough? Those Zerglings come in, but super good force fields right now, blocking off most of the army, and now PartinG's just going to back off and pick off a bunch of these Zerglings.
It's just about the 4 Immortals that he has in his army, really. Those are the key. Those are the core. Speaking of cores, Mothership core is down and gone. It's already utilized its 2 time warps, so not a huge deal here for PartinG. He just wants to make sure he can keep these Immortals alive. The force fields, like you said, are beautiful here. Always 2 forces on the ramp to lock out that flank. And even having vision here with the Warp Prism, he's able to keep those Hydras at bay on the high ground, and Rogue just needs a little bit more time. He would like to have a few more Hydralisks in his army composition.
He would love to have it, but I'm not sure if it's enough against these force fields. Just so much Protoss right now, and a lot of these Zerg units are behind those force fields.
Yep, they're behind those force fields, not able to really fire the sentries. So many reinforcements coming in here. He warps in a few more Zealots. Looks like PartinG might have too much, and Rogue is being pushed back. This is the Soul Train. This is PartinG. And it's forced the drones off the line now. It looks like that is going to be game, ladies and gentlemen. PartinG has done it again. Look at Rogue's face. Look at it.
Look at that face, man. He has got to be depressed after this loss. What a push out of PartinG. It's so hard. GG!
PartinG, he gets scouted. He does a Warp Prism drop with the Immortals. He gives this illusion of, you know, I'm going to take a third base, perhaps. You have to be prepared for anything. And he comes back with 4 Immortals. Does an attack that only works with perfect force fields. Without perfect force fields, or without cutting off the flank like he did by killing the Rock Tower, against that many Hydralisks, that would never work. But he just has the perfect force fields, micros his sentries on the Warp Prism, keeps his Warp Prism alive, which is also critical, so that he can reinforce. What a crazy game. PartinG can just take a game after he's scouted and just get into his opponent's head and make it work.
Yeah, I mean, you could just tell that that push, that whole build was kind of just prepared for and planned out. I mean, even though he was scouted, he's like, okay, I'm still going to go for it. On a map like that on Yeonsu, like you said, just blocking off that flank, he was just able to go there, and with those perfect force fields, it didn't matter what Rogue really had there. Maybe he had to throw down a bunch of those spine crawlers, just be more ready, but with 4 Immortals, how do you even pull that off with a bunch of spine crawlers as